The air in New Orleans was thick with jazz and secrets, the kind of night where every note from a saxophone felt like a confession. I stood outside the rusty note, my heart pounding louder than the drums spilling from the open door. Lucas, my best friend, was late again, and I was starting to wonder if he'd ditched me for some girl he'd met at the bar. I'm Elias, 24, a graphic designer who'd rather sketch the chaos of Bourbon Street than navigate its crowds. Growing up in a small Louisiana town, I'd learned to keep my head down and my heart locked tight. Being gay in a place where different was a dirty word taught me that walls were safer than open doors. But Lucas? He was the opposite. A golden boy from California who'd crashed into my life 2 years ago during college art project. Blonde, broad-shouldered, and infuriatingly charming. He had a way of making everyone feel like they were the only person in the room, including me, especially me. Eli. His voice cut through the noise, and I turned to see him jogging toward me, his grin wide enough to light up the whole damn street. Sorry, man. Got held up at the gym. He clapped a hand on my shoulder, and I tried not to notice how his touch lingered a second too long. You're always late, I said, rolling my eyes to mask the way my pulse jumped. One day, I'm going to leave you to fend for yourself in this madhouse. He laughed, a sound that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. You miss me too much. Come on, let's grab a drink. The rusty note was packed, the air heavy with sweat and whiskey. We squeezed through the crowd, Lucas leading the way with that effortless confidence I envied. He ordered us beers, and we found a corner table where the music wasn't quite so deafening. For a while, we just talked about his new job at a tech startup, my latest freelance gig, the way the city seemed to hum with a life of its own. But there was something different tonight. His usual easy banter felt strained, like he was holding something back. You okay, man? I asked, leaning forward. His blue eyes flickered, and for a moment, I thought I saw something raw, something unguarded. Yeah, just long day. He took a swig of his beer, avoiding my gaze. Hey, you free tonight? My roommate's out of town, and I don't feel like being alone. My heart stuttered. Lucas had never asked me to stay over before. Sure, we'd crashed at each other's places after late nights, but this felt different. Heavy. Yeah, sure, I said, trying to sound casual. Your couch still lumpy as hell. He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. You'll survive. We stayed at the bar another hour, the conversation drifting to safer topics, movies, music, the usual. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing beneath the surface. Lucas kept glancing at me, his expression unreadable, and every time our knees brushed under the table, I felt a spark I had no business feeling. He was straight. He dated half the women in our friend group. Whatever I was imagining, it was just that, imagination. His apartment was a short walk away, a cramped but cozy place in the French Quarter. The walls were lined with vinyl records and photos of him surfing back in California. I dropped my bag by the door, tried to ignore the way my stomach twisted as he kicked off his shoes and flopped onto the couch. Want another beer? He asked, already heading to the fridge. Nah, I'm good. I sat on the couch, suddenly hyper-aware of the space between us. So what's up? You're acting weird. He froze, his back to me, one hand on the fridge door. For a second, I thought he hadn't heard me. Then he turned, and the look on his face, half fear, half determination, made my breath catch. Eli, he said, his voice low, can I tell you something? I nodded, my throat tight. He crossed the room and sat beside me, closer than usual. The air felt charged, like the moment before a storm breaks. He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. I've been thinking about this for a while. About us. My heart stopped. Us. The word came out barely above a whisper. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Vulnerability. I don't know how to say this without screwing it up, he said, his voice shaking. But I've been feeling things. For you. Things I didn't think I could feel. The room spun. Lucas, my straight best friend, the guy who'd never shown a hint of interest in men, was sitting here, inches away, saying words I'd dreamed of but never dared hope for. I wanted to laugh, to cry, to run. Instead, I just stared at him, my walls trembling under the weight of his confession. "Lucas, you're not gay," I said, my voice cracking. "You've got a girlfriend history longer than my art portfolio." He winced, but didn't look away. "I know. I thought I had it all figured out. But then you came along, and shit, Eli, you're different. You made me question everything." I couldn't breathe. My mind screamed at me to shut this down, to protect myself before I got hurt. But my heart, my stupid, reckless heart, wanted to believe him. "What are you saying?" I asked, barely holding it together. He leaned closer, his eyes locked on mine. "I'm saying I don't know what I am anymore. But I know I want you in my life. Not just as a friend." The world tilted. Before I could respond, he reached out, his hand brushing my cheek, and I froze. His touch was soft, hesitant, but it set my skin on fire. And then, in the dark of his apartment, with the distant hum of the city outside, he whispered words that shattered every wall I'd ever built. "I think I'm falling for you." His words hung in the air like smoke, curling around my heart and choking my thoughts. I pulled back, my cheek burning where his hand had been, and stared at Lucas. The dim light from a street lamp outside cast shadows across his face, making him look both familiar and like a stranger. "Lucas, you can't just say that." I stammer, my voice raw. "You don't get to drop a bomb like that and expect me to know what to do with it." He looked like I'd slapped him, his shoulders slumping. I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't keep it in anymore." He stood, pacing the small living room, his hands tugging at his hair. "I've been freaking out for weeks, Eli. Every time I'm with you, it's like I'm seeing you for the first time." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But I'd spent years building defenses against hope, against the kind of pain that comes from wanting what you can't have. "You're confused," I said, standing too, needing to move, to shake off the electricity sparking between us. "You're not into guys. You're just, I don't know, lonely or something." He stopped pacing, his eyes flashing with frustration. "Don't tell me what I feel, Eli. I'm not a kid. I know what this is." He took a step toward me, and I instinctively stepped back, my back hitting the wall. He froze, his expression softening. "I'm not trying to scare you. I just need you to hear me." I swallowed hard, my heart hammering so loud I was sure he could hear it. "Okay," I said, my voice barely steady. "I'm listening." He exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath for days. "I've never felt this way about anyone. Not my exes, not anyone. You're your home, Eli. When I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe. And it's terrifying because I don't know what it means, but I can't ignore it anymore." I closed my eyes, trying to anchor myself against the storm of emotions his words unleashed. Home. That word hit me harder than I expected. I'd spent my life feeling like an outsider, even in my own skin. To hear Lucas, of all people, call me that, it was too much. "Lucas, if this is some kind of experiment, I can't be your test subject. I've got too much to lose." He flinched but didn't back down. "This is an experiment. I'm not playing games. I need you to know how I feel, even if you don't feel the same." I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised even me. "Don't feel the same? Lucas, I've been in love with you for a year." The confession slipped out before I could stop it, and I froze, horrified. His eyes widened, and for a moment, the room was silent except for the faint hum of the city outside. "You what?" he whispered, stepping closer. I pressed myself harder against the wall, like I could disappear into it. "Forget it," I said quickly, my face burning. I shouldn't have said that. "No." His voice was firm, and suddenly he was right in front of me, his hands braced on the wall on either side of my head. "Say it again." I shook my head, my throat tight. "Lucas, don't." "Say it, Eli." His voice was soft but insistent, his eyes searching mine. "Please." I took a shaky breath. "I'm in love with you," I said, quieter this time, but it felt like shouting it to the world. "And it's been killing me because you're straight and I'm just me." He didn't move, didn't speak, just looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Then, slowly, he leaned in, and my heart stopped as his lips brushed mine. It was tentative, barely a kiss, but it felt like the world cracking open. I froze, my hands gripping his shirt, unsure whether to pull him closer or push him away. He pulled back, his forehead resting against mine. "I'm not straight," he whispered. "Not when it comes to you." The words were a lifeline and a landmine all at once. I wanted to kiss him again, to lose myself in the moment, but fear clawed at me. What if this was a mistake? What if he woke up tomorrow and regretted it? I pushed him gently, creating space between us. "We can't do this," I said, my voice breaking. "Not until you're sure." "I'm sure," he said, his voice fierce. "But I'll wait, Eli, as long as you need." We stood there, the tension thick enough to choke on, until he finally stepped back. "You should get some sleep," he said, gesturing to the couch. "I'll take the floor." I nodded, too overwhelmed to argue. As I lay on the lumpy couch, staring at the ceiling, his words echoed in my head. "I'm not straight. Not when it comes to you." Sleep didn't come easy that night, and when it did, it was filled with dreams of him, dreams I wasn't sure I could trust. Morning light filtered through the blinds, painting stripes across Lucas's sleeping form on the floor. He looked peaceful, one arm tucked under his head, his chest rising and falling steadily. I sat up, my body aching from the couch and the weight of last night's confession. My mind was a battlefield, hope warring with fear, desire clashing with doubt. I'd spent so long convincing myself Lucas was untouchable, and now he'd torn that certainty apart with a single whisper. I slipped out to the balcony, needing air. New Orleans was waking up, the scent of coffee and beignet drifting from the cafe below. I gripped the railing, trying to steady myself. Loving Lucas had been my secret, a quiet ache I'd learned to live with. But now it was real, and real things could break. "Morning." Lucas's voice came from behind me, soft and cautious. I turned to find him leaning against the doorframe, his hair a mess, his eyes searching mine. "You okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just processing." He nodded, stepping onto the balcony. He didn't crowd me, but his presence filled the space anyway. "I meant what I said last night, Eli. I'm not backing down." I looked at him, really looked, and saw the sincerity in his eyes. But sincerity wasn't enough. "Lucas, this isn't just about you figuring out your feelings. It's about me. I've been out since I was 16. I've dealt with the stares, the whispers, the threats. If we do this, it's not just a fling. It's everything." He swallowed, his jaw tightening. "I know, and I'm not saying it's going to be easy. But I'm in, Eli. All the way." I wanted to believe him, but doubt was a stubborn beast. What happens when your friends find out? Your family? You got a whole life built on being the straight guy everyone loves. You ready to throw that away? He flinched, but didn't look away. "I don't care about them. I care about you. And yeah, it's scary, but I'd rather face it than lose you." His words hit hard, but I couldn't let myself fall yet. "Let's just take it slow, okay? I need time." He nodded, a small smile breaking through. "Deal. But I'm not letting you run away." We spent the day together, wandering the French Quarter, letting the city's rhythm distract us from the weight of last night. Lucas was his usual self, cracking jokes, charming strangers, but I caught him stealing glances at me, his eyes soft with something new. By afternoon, we ended up at a quiet park, sitting on a bench under a sprawling oak tree. The air was warm, the kind of sticky heat that made you feel alive. "Remember that art project we did?" Lucas said, breaking the comfortable silence. "The one where you drew that mural of the bayou?" I laughed, the memory pulling me back. "Yeah, and you kept adding stupid stick figures to it when I wasn't looking." He grinned. "You were so pissed. But you let me help anyway." "Because you wouldn't shut up about it," I said, nudging him. Our shoulders brushed, and neither of us pulled away. It was a small thing, but it felt like a step. As the sun set, painting the sky in fiery hues, Lucas turned to me. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "When did you know? About me, I mean." I hesitated, the truth heavy on my tongue. "Last summer. We were at that rooftop party, and you were laughing, telling some dumb story about surfing. I looked at you, and it hit me like a truck. I couldn't stop it." He was quiet for a moment, then reached for my hand, his fingers intertwining with mine. I wish I'd known sooner. I squeezed his hand, my heart racing. You know now, that night, we went back to his place, the tension between us softer, but still there. We watched a movie, sitting close on the couch, and when his arm draped over my shoulders, I didn't pull away. It felt right, but terrifying. As the credits rolled, he turned to me, his voice low. Stay again tonight? I nodded, my throat tight. Yeah. This time, he didn't take the floor. We shared the couch, lying side by side, the space between us shrinking with every breath. In the dark, his hand found mine, and he whispered, I'm not going anywhere, Eli. And for the first time, I started to believe him. Days turned into weeks, and Lucas and I danced around the edge of something neither of us could fully name. We didn't kiss again, didn't cross that line, but the air between us crackled with possibility. Every touch, every glance felt like a promise or a warning. I was falling deeper, and it scared me to death. New Orleans kept us busy, its vibrant chaos a perfect distraction. We'd meet for coffee at Café du Monde, sketch street performers in Jackson Square, or lose ourselves in the music at Preservation Hall. Lucas was relentless in his pursuit, not pushy, but steady, like he was proving he meant what he'd said. He'd text me dumb memes at 2 a.m., show up at my apartment with takeout, or drag me to art galleries he knew I loved. It was overwhelming, and I let myself enjoy it, even as doubt gnawed at me. One evening, we ended up at a rooftop bar overlooking the Mississippi River. The city sparkled below, a mosaic of lights and life. Lucas leaned against the railing, his profile sharp against the twilight. You ever think about leaving this place? He asked, his voice casual but probing. Sometimes, I admitted, sipping my drink. But it's home. Messy, loud, complicated home. He turned to me, his expression serious. Would you leave for someone? If it was the right person? My heart skipped. Depends. They'd have to be worth it. He held my gaze, and for a moment, I thought he'd say something big, something that would tip us over the edge. But he just smiled, soft and a little sad. Yeah, they would. That night, he asked me to stay over again. I said yes like I always did, but this time felt different. We were lying in his bed now, the couch abandoned, the space between us shrinking to nothing. In the dark, his voice was barely a whisper. Eli, I want this. Us. But I need to know you're in. I turned to face him, his eyes glinting in the moonlight. I'm scared, Lucas. I've been hurt before. Not like this, but enough to know how bad it can get. He reached out, his hand resting on my cheek. I'm not those guys. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. I wanted to believe him, but the world outside his apartment was waiting. His friends, his family, the life he'd built, they didn't know this version of him. And I wasn't sure I could survive being his secret. What about everyone else? I asked. Your buddies at the gym, your parents, what happens when they find out? He tensed, but didn't pull away. I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. I nodded, but the doubt lingered. We fell asleep holding hands, and I dreamed of a world where love didn't come with a cost. The next morning, reality crashed in. Lucas's phone buzzed with a text from his friend Jake, inviting us to a party that night. You should come, Lucas said, his tone light but his eyes cautious. It'll be fun. I hesitated. Jake and Lucas's other friends were the kind of guys who tossed around bro like punctuation and didn't think twice about casual slurs. I'd always kept my distance, letting Lucas be my shield. But now, with everything shifting between us, I couldn't hide forever. All right, I said, forcing a smile. But if they start playing beer pong, I'm out. He laughed, pulling me into a quick hug. Deal. The party was in a warehouse loft, all exposed brick and pulsing music. Lucas stayed close, his hand brushing mine as we navigated the crowd. Jake greeted us with a grin, slinging an arm around Lucas. Yo, where's your wingman been hiding? He said, nodding at me. Just busy, I said, keeping my tone neutral. Lucas shot me a reassuring look, but I could feel the eyes on us, the unspoken questions. We grabbed drinks and found a corner, but the tension followed. Halfway through the night, Jake pulled Lucas aside, and I watched their animated conversation from across the room. Lucas's face tightened, and when he came back, he looked shaken. What was that about? I asked, my stomach twisting. He hesitated, then sighed. He asked if we were together. Sets of people were talking. My heart sank. And what did you say? I told him we're friends, he said, his voice low. But I didn't like how it felt saying that. I nodded, the sting sharp but not unexpected. It's okay, Lucas. I get it. No, it's not okay. He grabbed my hand, his grip firm. I don't want to hide you. I need time. I pulled my hand away, the hurt cutting deeper than I'd expected. Take all the time you need, I said, and walked away, the noise of the party swallowing my footsteps. I didn't go back to Lucas's place that night. Instead, I walked the streets of New Orleans, letting the city's pulse drown out the ache in my chest. The neon lights and laughter felt like a mockery of the storm inside me. Lucas had called me 3 times, left 2 voicemails, but I couldn't bring myself to listen. Not yet. By the time I got to my apartment, dawn was creeping over the horizon. I collapsed on my bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying his words. I don't want to hide you. But he hadn't he? One question from Jake, and he'd folded. I couldn't blame him. Not entirely. Coming out wasn't a switch you flipped. It was a journey, and Lucas was just starting. But I'd been on that road for years, and I wasn't sure I had the strength to walk it with him. My phone buzzed again, and this time I answered. Eli, thank God. Lucas's voice was rough, like he hadn't slept either. Where are you? Home, I said, keeping my voice steady. I needed space. I'm sorry, he said, the words tumbling out. I screwed up. I should have told Jake the truth. I panicked, and I hate myself for it. I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. It's not just about Jake, Lucas. It's about what happens next. You're not ready for this, and I can't be your practice run. I'm not practicing, he said, his voice breaking. I love you, Eli. I know I'm messing this up, but I love you. The words hit like a punch, stealing my breath. I wanted to scream, to cry, to tell him I loved him too. But instead, I said, I need time, Lucas. Give me a few days. He was silent for a moment, then whispered, Okay, but I'm not giving up. I hung up my heart in pieces. For the next 3 days, I threw myself into work, sketching designs for a client's mural project. But Lucas was everywhere, in the curve of a line, the shadow of a building, the ache in my chest. On the 4th day, he showed up at my door, holding a coffee and a bag of beignets. Can we talk? He asked, his eyes pleading. I let him in, the familiar scent of his cologne stirring something I couldn't ignore. We sat on my tiny balcony, the city humming below. I've been thinking, he said, setting the coffee down, about what you said, about my friends, my family. I told my sister about us. I froze, my heart racing. You what? I told her I'm in love with you, he said, his voice steady. She was surprised, but she said she's happy for me. For us. I stared at him, searching for a lie, but all I saw was Lucas. Raw, honest, scared. What about your parents? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I haven't told them yet, but I will. I'm done hiding, Eli. I want this, us, more than I'm afraid of what they'll think. Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them back. Lucas, this isn't just about coming out. It's about living it. Every day. The looks, the comments, the people who will turn their backs on you. Are you ready for that? He reached for my hand, his grip warm and firm. I'm ready to try. For you. I wanted to believe him, but trust was hard-won. Let's take it one step at a time, I said. No pressure, no promises. Just us. He smiled, relief flooding his face. I can do that. That night, we went to a quiet jazz club, just the 2 of us. We didn't hold hands, didn't kiss, but we sat close, our knees touching under the table. It was enough for now. As the music swelled, I felt something shift inside me, a crack in the walls I'd built so carefully. Maybe, just maybe, I could let him in. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance. Lucas and I were trying, really trying, but it wasn't easy. Every step forward came with a new challenge. He'd reach for my hand in public, then hesitate, his eyes scanning the crowd for judgment. I catch myself pulling back, guarding my heart against the inevitable. But we kept going, drawn to each other like moths to a flame. One night, Lucas invited me to meet his sister, Mia, who was visiting from San Francisco. I was nervous, my palms sweaty as we walked into the cozy Creole restaurant she'd chosen. Mia was a whirlwind, petite, with Lucas's blue eyes and a laugh that filled the room. She hugged me like we'd known each other forever, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. "So, Eli," she said, leaning across the table, "Lucas says you're an artist. I want to see your work sometime." I smiled, relaxing a little. "Sure, as long as you don't expect a masterpiece." Lucas grinned, his hand brushing mine under the table. He's being modest. His stuff's incredible. Mia raised an eyebrow, smirking. "Oh, I bet. He's already got you wrapped around his finger." Lucas laughed, but his cheeks flushed, and I felt a warmth spread through me. For the first time, I saw a future where we weren't just fighting to exist, but thriving. Mia's acceptance was a lifeline, a reminder that not everyone would turn away. But the world wasn't always so kind. A week later, we ran into Jake and some of Lucas's friends at a bar. The air shifted the moment they saw us, their easy banter replaced by awkward glances. Jake pulled Lucas aside again, and I braced myself, sipping my beer to hide the knot in my stomach. When Lucas came back, his face was pale. "They're not thrilled," he admitted, his voice low. "Jake said some stuff. Ignorant stuff. I told him to back off, but what?" I pressed, my heart sinking. "He thinks I'm going through a phase. Said I'm throwing away my life for you." His voice cracked, and I saw the hurt in his eyes. I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was tired. "Lucas, this is what I meant. This is what it's like. People like Jake, they don't get it. And they might never." He grabbed my hand, his grip fierce. "I don't care about Jake. I care about you." I nodded, but the weight of his words lingered. That night, we went back to my place, and for the first time, we crossed the line we'd been tiptoeing around. His kisses were desperate, hungry, like he was trying to prove something, to me, to himself. I let myself fall into it, but in the quiet moments after, doubt crept back in. Was he fighting for us, or against the world that didn't understand? The next morning, Lucas got a call from his dad. I could hear the tension in his voice as he stepped onto the balcony to talk. When he came back, his face was unreadable. "He wants me to visit next weekend," he said. "In California." I nodded, my stomach twisting. "You gonna tell him?" He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I have to." I reached for his hand, squeezing it. "I'm proud of you, no matter what happens." The week before his trip was a blur of late-night talks and quiet moments. Lucas was nervous, but determined, and I tried to be his rock, even as my own fears gnawed at me. What if his parents rejected him? What if he couldn't handle the fallout? I pushed the thoughts aside, focusing on the present, on us. The night before he left, we lay in bed, the city's hum a soft backdrop. "I'm scared," he admitted, his voice barely audible. "But I'm more scared of losing you." I turned to him, my heart full. "You won't lose me," I said, and for the first time I meant it. Lucas was gone for a week, and it felt like a lifetime. We texted every day, but his messages were short, guarded. I try not to read too much into it, but fear was a relentless shadow. I threw myself into my art, painting a mural of New Orleans at night, vibrant, chaotic, alive. It was my way of holding on to him, on to us while he faced his family. When he came back, he showed up at my door unannounced, his eyes tired but bright. "It's done," he said, pulling me into a hug. I told him. My heart raced. And he stepped back, a small smile breaking through. It wasn't easy. My dad, he didn't take it well. Said some things I won't repeat. But my mom, she listened. She's trying. And Mia's got my back. I exhaled, relief and pride flooding me. "You did it." He nodded, his hand finding mine. "For us." We spent the next few weeks rebuilding, finding our rhythm. Lucas was different, stronger, more certain. He started holding my hand in public, ignoring the stares. He introduced me to his friends as his boyfriend, and while some, like Jake, drifted away, others surprised me with their support. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. One night, we went back to the Rusty Note, where it all began. The jazz was as intoxicating as ever, the crowd a blur of life. Lucas leaned close, his breath warm against my ear. "Dance with me," he said, his voice low and sure. I laughed, nervous. "Here, in front of everyone. Especially here," he said, pulling me to my feet. We moved to the small dance floor, his arms around me, and for the first time, I didn't care who was watching. The world could judge us, reject us, but in that moment, we were untouchable. As the music slowed, he whispered, "I love you, Eli, and I'm never letting go." I looked into his eyes, seeing the boy who'd crashed into my life and changed it forever. "I love you too," I said, and meant it with every piece of my heart. We left the club hand in hand, the city wrapping us in its embrace. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. Love never was. But we'd faced our fears, our doubts, and come out stronger. Lucas had shattered my walls, and together we were building something new, something worth fighting for.